Stewart Lee, stand-up, columnist, musical, know-it-all. Welcome.
Thank you. Welcome to the extras of my DVD.
Yeah, your DVD. Just a few questions, a discussion, whatever I'd like to go through with you. Firstly, how did you come up with the title 41st Best Stand-Up Ever?
Well, there was this Channel 4 programme came out last year, the 100 Best Stand-Ups Ever. You were in it, weren't you?
I was in the 40s. So
yeah,
I was lagging behind you.
You were 43, I think,
yeah.
or 42. Yeah. Well, I was 41, and and like I say in the show, I was really surprised to be placed at all. And then I thought, I'm in this list, right, of these stand-ups, but this telly thing I was supposed to be doing had just been cancelled, and I mainly do like 100 or 200-seater rooms, and I thought it was really funny the kind of disparity between supposedly being in this list and not really being able to get anything done. So I thought I'd use the title as a kind of selling point, and hopefully comics and audiences would find it funny. But what I noticed kind of happened in Edinburgh at weekends when the weekend crowd came out, well, I'd start off the show saying how the whole idea of a list of 100 comics was stupid anyway, and there'd be people that were quite irritated because they'd obviously come along expecting to see objectively the 41st best stand-up ever. And then did you get
the checklist?
Yeah, that's right. And they were did you get interviewed for that programme?
I didn't know. No. I think I was out of the country when they were sort of putting it together. But I actually found the whole idea of it quite laughable.
Well, I didn't want to do it, but then they kind of told me you're in it, so I thought I would at least say something about myself so that I could cultivate an image of being humble, in some way.
I would have had to find. I don't know what would I have said about you. It would have been sort of really sickening and gushing.
I don't know how they arrive at any of these things, because it was supposed to be like phone votes and internet votes and asking the public and critics and things. But if they'd done it 6 months later than they did it, Russell Brand would have been in the top 3, and he was number 70 or something. So it's kind of like saying to people, what can you remember? What was the last thing you saw? And they just vote for it.
Definitely. Well, are you happy with the show?
Yeah, well, but it all got really weird, right? Because it was a sort of show about failure. It was about the funniness of being in that list and having a BBC Two series, and the pilot had been cancelled, and then not being able to do big gigs or get anything on radio or whatever. And then weirdly, after I started writing the show in July, the BBC put the show back on the slate, and then loads of people started coming to the show. So when I was touring it, I was doing this kind of routine about being a failure, but I'd be doing it to kind of 800 people in a full room in Leeds, and it kind of became a bit ridiculous. So you had to kind of try other things to make it look like you're a failure, and the context sort of changed. And like, if I did a tour and it went that well again, I'd have to think, I can't write all the usual stuff I used to, which was about being a grumpy failure who resents the world, because actually you look like a success, so you just look like you're ungrateful.
I know that. That's the only odd thing, because that, in 98, I know it's not my interview, but that was the old thing in 98 of going back and going, well, actually, you had a really successful Edinburgh last year. How can you come back and still play the failure card? You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, it does really change. Like, for example, all your early stuff is written from the point of an outsider trying to get in. But to the average person, they look at you now, and you're an insider trying to get out.
I do a good job of it. My powers of alienation are second to none.
So it is different, because you think you're the same, but what a person thinks of you is like what they see. And so if you write in a show about no one's coming and I've failed and there's 800 people there, they're going, well, what are you talking about? So, I mean, it's kind of, I'm glad that we caught this on DVD, but I think it was, by the end of the tour, it'd become quite odd as a piece of work. I mean, you must find that, though, trying to do gigs now. It's sort of, you can't just do, like, you couldn't do the same things as in 97, because you're thought of as a success.
Yeah.
Wrongly.
Quite wrongly. But then what would you say to maybe somebody sceptical going, well, didn't you just basically sit down and write a show that was effectively spitting your dummy out? about work that was cancelled. You know what I mean? And almost abusing your position on stage to go, the BBC have done this and done that, and I feel wronged.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but then
should people pay to watch you moan about?
Yeah, I know they shouldn't. They shouldn't. But actually, then again, it's sort of part of being. It's like being in character, isn't it? It's going. I mean, I was really happy with my life and everything was going, but I was sort of thinking, if I wasn't, and all these things had failed, then this is what I would do. But also, like, you wouldn't go out to entertain people by trying to sort of make them suffer about how fed up you were with things. But you know, it was a good way of getting into loads of other. No,
I do.
It was a good way of getting into loads of other subject material, basically.
Okay. Is it true that did your mum actually see Tom O'Connor on a cruise?
Yeah, well, she says she did, right? And you know, whenever she actually talks about me being a stand-up, she automatically starts talking about Tom O'Connor on the cruise. And whenever I'm with anyone who's a stand-up, I say, if you meet my mum and you say you're a stand-up, she'll tell you about Tom O'Connor on this cruise. I remember a conversation where I just got really fed up of it in the end. Everyone going about Tom O'Connor all the time and how brilliant he was. And I said, look, those guys that are on those cruises, they look at us and they may be earning loads of money, but they want to know how we write. How do you write jokes? Because they don't write. And so one member of my family went, what, so you're an artist, are you? And laughed at the very idea that it was possible to be a comedian and an artist. But then weirdly, she did remember, right at the very end of when I'd written the show in July, I rang her up to ask her if it was all right to go on and on about her and Tom O'Connor. And then she remembered at the very last minute that Tom O'Connor had been on the cruise, but it wasn't him that had done the sardine joke. It was this other bloke called John Smith. I don't know, do you know him?
John Smith? No. I'm just,
I don't know. One does. I mean, she said she'd mentioned me to him, and he said he'd heard of me, but I don't think he would have done. He was being polite. But I mean, and then you told me that you'd seen Tom O'Connor when you were a kid, and he was really good. Yeah.
No, I actually found a cassette of his on a wasteland.
Yeah, well, it's the same thing.
Where we used to play.
Well, which set was it? Because there was two recorded.
I really liked it. There was one about the Scouse wedding.
Yeah.
And the two guys get drunk and decide they're leaving for America.
Right.
And they get in the boat and it's still tied up and they're still there the following morning. It was very storytelling stuff, and I actually think it was influential at a young age of going, I quite like this, and they get it. But there was other stuff that was very gag-laden about a Jewish man trying to smuggle a gold bust of lead into the country. Well, is it weird what sticks for you?
Well, the set I heard was really good, and it was all this kind of Liverpool thing of going, oh, we're all mad, aren't we? We're mad here. And like, it was 1975, and it was basically nostalgic for 1935 in a kind of way of as if like it was much better. But it was all stories that sounded written. They didn't sound like old jokes.
No.
And so he was a cut above the club comics then, apart from the one where he says, my uncle was so unlucky, he saw a woman in half and he got given the head end. That was one of the jokes on it from Tom O'Connor. But also, you know what, you could tell he's a teacher or something, wasn't he? I mean, he was like, it wasn't just he was telling stories. So I was kind of relieved in the end that it turned out that it wasn't him that my mum had remembered as doing the sardine joke, because it seemed a bit better than that.
I was really deflated when Tony Pitts told me that he was doing panto with him and he had his wife at the back selling golfing umbrellas.
Yeah, well, I used all that in it.
Yeah.
You told me that about him selling the golfing umbrellas, and then I used all that in the story because I told my mum that he was selling these golfing umbrellas, and she was telling me that I should do something like that, and you know, yeah, she was, and I didn't. Why wasn't I more business-minded? So actually, it was you telling me that he was quite a good comic, and I thought you said you'd seen him in a Catholic men's club in Manchester in 1978.
No, he played the Catholic men's club where I worked.
But I wish I'd known that actually you'd said you found a cassette of Tom O'Connor on a piece of waste ground, because that would have been much funnier.
Well, that's why. It's where the burglars used to dump what they didn't want. When they burgled houses, it was a veritable treasure trove.
So it was a stolen Tom O'Connor cassette that was then abandoned by burglars that didn't want it. Yeah. Actually, a weird thing happened at the Soho Theatre. I got sent loads of signed photos wishing me luck from Tom O'Connor, but I think someone must have.
Somebody else has organised it. So you're not sort of interested in taking this further and getting in touch with Tom?
Well, I would do, except there's this bit where I talk about him having this sex scandal attached to him, and it's not something people want to go over. again and again. You know, he'd probably be really laughing along, and then it would get to that bit, and he'd go disappointed and alienated.
No, he covers it in great detail in his book.
No, he doesn't. He skips it, doesn't he? Because it goes from, he misses out that year.
It just has, and then there was all that nonsense with the press.
Yeah.
And then it jumped straight to Crosswits.
Yeah, but I think he did try 3 lawsuits and then he withdrew them, didn't he?
Mm.
Yeah. Oh well, it just doesn't matter.
But
It doesn't detract from his work, I don't think.
No, it's, you know, all the best presidents were the philanderers, weren't they?
Yeah.
Well, it's...
Have you heard his album of songs that he does?
No.
No, he made an album called Name That Tune, right? But he sings a song on it called Name That Tune, but it isn't the theme music of Name That Tune, the quiz show presented. It's him singing a song about how he spins the wheel and people have only a few seconds to name that tune. And he was obviously trying to come as close as he could to cashing in on the Name That Tune brand without actually having to license it. Yeah.
Where do you think that started, this idea of comics producing their own material rather than comics paying people to?
Yeah.
Do you know, would you ever be tempted to farm out to other comedians?
Yeah, well, to write this BBC Two series, I saw Miles Jupp the other night, and I've been trying to write something about the infrastructure of transport in Britain, and he just had this phrase that was really brilliant, and I thought, well, I've got a budget now, you know, I could just... So I said to him afterwards, can I buy that off you? But that isn't the same as Joe Pasquale just taking it. And you can say that, you know, because he won't sue, because he knows. But, yeah.
Have you ever had any of your material lifted?
Not really. I don't think so, because I think it's difficult, because if you write in, it's quite hard for people to just take jokes. I mean, Tim Vine or Dimitri Martin might get stuff stolen because they write really neat little standalone jokes. But I mean, what could anyone take of yours? Yeah,
but it's one time when you go, I used to think it was, I always struggle with the idea of going, is it because I'm unique, or is it just
unquotable?
It's not worth stealing.
Well, it's sort of, you know, like Tim Vine's really unfortunate because he's got a really distinctive tone of voice and point of view, and he writes these really incredibly neat little jokes, and people just go, "Oh, we'll have that." But I think it's quite difficult to steal from a set that is like, this set is basically a 75-minute argument with my mother about why I'm better than Tom O'Connor. It's quite hard for anyone to sort of take anything from it, you know. So, but I'm glad that this is out there, because I feel like I do sometimes do gigs now, and you think you're being paranoid or you've gone mad, but you start to see people and you think, oh, that's like something I would do. It's like it's like I feel like I'm becoming a style, and there's not much documentation of me. So I'm really glad this happened. And there was a weird period, if you remember, with Eddie Izzard, where he wasn't doing any telly, and he hadn't done any telly, and he'd been really big on the circuit for about 5 years, and by about 95, there were loads of people who were going, and like doing him, but a member of the public wouldn't know where it had come from, you know, so...
Well, I think that was, because when I sort of... It's really bizarre, because I sort of discovered stand-up, really got into it, and then purposely shut myself off from it. You know what I mean? Because it was really odd on stage, watching people going, whether they're aware of it or not, they have just kind of absorbed these styles.
Well, I've copied stuff off you, and I think I look back on it, which is, in the last 2 shows, when I was on with you again the other week, I thought, oh yeah, and it's a thing of, I'll go for a walk around the audience now and sort of try and get genuinely upset in my head about a particular thing that's happened to me, and see if I can make them feel embarrassed. The only thing is, I do it for about 8 minutes rather than
2 hours.
2 hours, yeah. But it's like a little bit of from the person I've seen that. I think it started to happen after I shot that DVD for you. Of thinking the stage doesn't have to be where the show finishes. You can take it out into the room. And well, I wouldn't go as far as like ending up in a skip outside or taking everyone on a bus journey or whatever, but it is that. I mean, it was watching you 5 times in 2003 and then spending a month editing it. I think it obviously went in because you know, it gave me the confidence to think you could go out, into a room, and it wouldn't really matter if there was silence because it'd be quite exciting.
But you've done that. That's 2 shows now, isn't it? Where you've sort of gone into the audience and faked it. Is that? Do you think there's any danger you're getting repetitive?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think that. I find that quite offensive in a way, what you've said, given that you haven't really done anything new yourself for a long time. But I think that...
I abandoned the potter's wheel and took a lathe on.
True, yeah.
That was a drastic, ill-conceived, but not quite as visually arresting.
Well, I'm basically going to carry on doing...
Cheeky bastard.
I know. I'm going to carry on doing the same sorts of things indefinitely, but I'm going to lose and gain weight erratically, continue to do that, so that they will appear different. They'll be done by a slightly different sized man. So that would be the key to it.
Well, no, because I mean that was. I remember speaking to you about the new show, and it's sort of in a kind of. It's one of the happiest things I've ever seen you. Where I came and watched you in Manchester, and you came on stage, and there was this genuine sort of relief that you'd got new material that you were happy with, and that you were letting old material go. Yeah,
well, also I wanted to try and do something that was positive and funny, and this was, again, I kept seeing people, and like the comedians I always found the funniest as a younger man were like cynical people, and people that kind of hated everything. And then I thought, well, but I really like Boothby Graffo, right? And it seems broadly positive, but as funny as a cynical person, and Josie Long as well, I suppose. And I started to think, how can you do anything that's as funny as hating anything, but still has something positive to say? And so in the show I took quite deliberate choices to say, for example, that I thought political correctness was a really good thing, rather than laying into it, and to like talk about how happy it made me to make a child laugh, just to see if I could try and turn it in a different direction to kind of broaden the palette a bit, and to have somewhere else to go. And also I think it just starts to look a bit kind of, I mean, I'm 40 now, and I think it starts to look a bit childish to be just cynical about everything. And but it served me well for 20 years. But I don't know what will happen next. So I'm not going to end up like dressing up as a flower and singing a happy song. But
no,
I might do that. It might be good.
It's that kind of thing. I remember when I started out that I'd get really angry. I remember watching Dennis Lader.
Yeah.
And being really pissed off with him because he came out and he did a set and it was basically all about his kids.
Yeah.
And there was this thing of, do you feel you do that piece in your show about making your child laugh, and you go, God, is he going down that road now? I was almost believed that people, once they had a family, should be forced to retire from stand-up, because it's like, I don't want to know about you and your life, you know what I mean, at home.
No, I can understand that, and I mean, in a way, when you go out to a gig, you want to see someone saying things that would never occur to you and describing a life you could never have. And as a comedian begins to have a more conventional life, I suppose that's going to disappear to a point. Well, the problem with that Dennis Leary, that was his second set, wasn't it? Was his first set, he was like an actor doing stand-up, complaining about loads of things in a Bill Hicksy kind of way. And the second time, he hadn't got anything left to be annoyed about because he'd done really well. So he had that really long routine about how furious he was about how many different varieties of coffee there were for sale, didn't he? And yet he did it with the same amount of anger that he'd previously had for the Reagan administration. It was aimed against drink retail. Now that was weird, but what was he going to talk about? I mean, and I don't know what the. I mean, I've seen Billy Connolly do really great stuff where he talks about what it's like to be invited to a royal event or a film premiere. And Skinner used to have a really good routine about going to a film premiere and what that was like. And you kind of felt like their lives have become very different, but they're reporting back from them.
Yeah.
But it would be weird just to. I don't know what the next stuff will be about. I don't know what will. Happen to me. How do you keep yourself in it personally? I don't know. Yeah.
Well, have you done stand-up for kids?
Yeah, I did comedy for kids. Yeah, and I talked about it in that. James Campbell runs this gig, Comedy for Kids, and I did it, and I talked about it in this show because when I first got offered the BBC Two show, before it went away the first time and then came back, I wanted the thing to be in it that I was going to do stand-up to weird groups of people, and one of the things I did was I wrote a half-hour routine for kids, for comedy for kids, and it was really good fun. Have you done it?
No.
It's great. It's really good.
I find the idea of it absolutely terrifying.
Well, I mean, it's really brilliant because they don't have any problem accepting a weird story as true. Then they just query you on details. It's really interesting playing to them in there. But you know, you go out and you go, how old do you think I am? And they go, 100, 9, 27. It's really good fun. But worth doing, actually.
I did one in New York.
For kids?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was just terrible.
Why?
I think the accent, because it was a lot of New York kids in a museum, and it was just me desperately. I never thought of my act as shocking or anything, but then when I tried to go through what elements I could do for children, I was appalled with myself.
Yeah.
And I went out and just did this disastrous sort of, hey, don't smoke a friend, build a jug. And there was with the potter's wheel, and it was oh, the sense of disappointment in the room. And I think my accent and everything, it turned out to be a really ill-conceived idea of encouraging kids to come in and use museums, and there's a fat, sweaty northerner shouting at them.
In New York?
Yeah. But is it, right, I've got a, is it an actual quote that you have Russell Brand saying about racism on Celebrity Big Brother? Because you claim that he said, oh, there's some bad racism and stuff like that going down today, and no mistake, my liege, it's made my winkle go right small, it has. Yeah. Oh yes it has, yeah, and my ball bag has gone up my bum. Here's H from Steps.
Yeah, it was when I saw it. It was literally about 2 days after that it broke, and I saw him say that, and I thought that he was trying to like smooth over the whole thing, and I thought that is so brilliant, because if you just say that on stage, it will expose the kind of ridiculousness of the attempt of a light entertainment celebrity in a light entertainment programme to deal with something as serious as this kind of racial bullying. So, I mean, I just thought it was perfect, so I wrote it down, and it's, you know, people just laugh openly at it because it's so stupid.
Yeah,
it's
but
great.
I've been back, I actually checked it.
Oh, and I'm glad.
I think you were,
well, it's good because you know, I'm glad.
Yeah, but what he actually said was, racism, it's such a wank thing, innit? It's such a pain in the arse that someone would go around being racist. And individually, I think if people were made culpable for their actions and were made to look at themselves, they'd think, oh God, I shouldn't say that. And yet the way that they are behaving collectively is obviously abhorrent. Now, do you think you've got enough artistic licence to actually twist the words of another? I
don't think they're really twisted. I think that the essence of what he said is the the same as what I said. The only difference between what I said he said and what he actually said is that what he actually said, it starts to make quite a lot of sense towards the end. And obviously, that doesn't suit my purposes, because what I'm looking at, this is like a meta discussion about the event. It's not to do with what he actually said, it's to do with how celebrity culture cannot address a serious issue, and that is the important thing. It doesn't really matter.
I think it
doesn't really matter what he said. I mean, the important thing is that he said something like it, and it can just be changed to my own ends. And I think Russell himself would agree that it's.
And where does that end in terms of, you know? So you see yourself as Stewart Lee demigod who can take anything out of context as long as it suits the purpose of your comedy?
It's not taken out of context because it wasn't actually. It wasn't said.
Well, misquoting.
Well, it's not even misquoted. It's not Hazelnuts. No.
It's misquoting because he never said. My winkle has gone right small.
No, but he has said.
My ball bag has gone
he
right
said
my
things like that on other occasions.
Yeah, but maybe not in relationship to racism.
No, but he, you know, but if he had tried to address racism, and he had.
That's how you think he would have.
Yeah, and the fact that he didn't do that, and he actually said something quite good, is not. That doesn't detract from what I'm trying to do. What I'm trying to do is look at the bigger picture, about how. You know, racism's bad, we all agree with that, yeah? But it's not something that can be easily dealt with by celebrity, and when you think of celebrity, the person you think of, I think, for most people, is Russell Brand. And the way that they think he speaks is in the way that I said. So to me, it doesn't really matter what he said. The important thing is that, you know, it's... And I don't think he would mind either. I think he'd look at that piece and he'd go, well, fair play, that's a good... I haven't asked him, no. But I know that he likes my work, and I think if he saw that, he'd feel flattered to be misquoted rather than annoyed. I think he'd be delighted by it.
It's not so presumptuous.
It's not. It is presumptuous, but I think that when you're working with these kind of ideas, you're working in. You have to make these kind of bold leaps of connecting ideas, and if in connecting them you're not strictly, if in connecting them you betray someone and make them look worse than they are, then that's like a casualty of war, and the war is about trying to reach the greater truth. And the truth is that racism is a bad thing, and that's what. And I think that if, he didn't say that, he said it's wank. It doesn't really matter, does it? What he said. The point is that there's a thing we're driving at that's more important than what he actually said.
But so, do you sort of see? I suppose it's an hard thing with comedy, isn't it? Because you'll make friends sort of within the industry.
Yeah.
But then you have kind of got to intellectually remain completely impartial. Mm. You know what I mean? Do you ever struggle with that of going, this is perfect for having like the piss taken out of it, but I'm going to see him in a bar, I'm going to come across this person, do you know what I mean? And I'll actually feel quite awkward about what I've said about them.
I feel the same about Russell Brand as I would about Tom O'Connor. The stuff's out there now, and let's see what happens. It's not like throwing down a gauntlet to him, but I'm just saying that I view him as a kind of resource now, in the way that I would, a funny animal or something, or a bad weather. It's just something to exaggerate, and he's become like a phenomena, like a rain or something, and less like he's not like a person to me now,
He's a product. Or...
He's a product, and if I choose to attribute things to him that he didn't say, then that's my prerogative, I feel, now.
Right.
It's like if you're doing a routine about a funny dog, and you imagine what the dog's thinking, no one goes, oh, you don't know that dog thought, oh, I wish I could have a bone. It's the same, that's how I feel about a celebrity, about a Russell Brand character. I have to kind of impose my thoughts onto...
Okay. In theory, if he got in touch and said, actually, I find that deeply offensive, would you remove it?
Well, this is a discussion we had before filming the DVD. It was pointed out to me that he didn't actually say this. And I said, well, the way we'll get round it is I'll get Johnny Vegas in the DVD extra to ask me a question about it, so we can put what he actually said out there and say, we're covered. But most people won't watch this part.
Yeah.
And so, it's covered legally, but not in such a way as it impacts on the actual piece itself.
Right.
So this, in many ways, is a coping mechanism.
So I wondered why you'd bring in such a simpleton to interview. I'm just a patsy.
Yeah, you're a patsy, and you've been primed with that quote, so that it would come up, and I can address the issue. It's like a footnote.
Am I allowed to feel stupid now?
No, you need to feel that you've done
great things.
You've done great things here, yeah. Obviously, I can't stop in the live DVD and go, we didn't say that. But I can do this bit here.
Okay. I'd like to pursue this, but I have other questions. Knowing this now, and knowing your tendency to play with the facts, was Pestival a real event, and were you really booked to play it?
Yeah, Pestival, the insect festival, was a real event. It actually happened in 2006, and it happened about a week after, in April 2006, it happened about a week after the BBC got cold feet about giving me this series. And I had honestly got myself booked into it because I was honestly planning to do stand-up as an insect at Pestival. And Armando Iannucci, who was going to produce it, had said he could film it. And I'd started writing this set, and I had contacted someone, it wasn't Martin Sohn, but it was a real costume designer, about making me an insect costume. But the pilot was cancelled about 3 days before I actually got the costume made. But I did still have to go to Pestival and do this set to all the entomologists, and that's what the footage is that's as another extra on the DVD. It's only shot on one camera from sort of behind, but I did go and do Pestival. And it was really funny, actually, and I really, and it came back from years ago. There was this idea Simon Munnery had about wanting to film loads of comics doing their sort of comedy store sets, you know, kind of normal material about family and kids and travel and whatever. Record it on audio, and then in the middle of a room have a stick insect in a glass box, right, with a microphone stand, and to film it and project it really big onto the back wall, and then play the comic set along with it, or get the comic to like do their material in time with the stick insect, which I thought would have been basically you have a different person every night, but it would always be a stick insect doing their set. I just thought it was really funny. So I was trying to recreate that live. But as it happened, the plug got pulled, so I was left with this weird obligation to do this insect festival gig. But it was really great, and this guy was on, David Rothenberg, who played along to all the insects, and we used the music on the title menu for this DVD. That's actually recorded on the night, and Robin Hitchcock was on from the Soft Boys, so it was really good. But I really did do Pestival, and I did do Pestival specifically to do something for a TV series that then got cancelled.
Have you been called back? I
have been called back. I'm doing Pestival 2009, which will be on the South Bank in May or June 2009. And I might be curating a whole insect-based event for Pestival. And we gave a donation to the Pestival charitable organisation to be able to use the Pestival footage on this DVD.
And has that opened the floodgates for any other bizarre?
No, I mean, it's literally the only sort of corporate I've done that, and it was for insect scientists. What's the weirdest gig you've done like that?
Oh, I don't know, it wasn't weird, but we did a horrible one early on in Manchester in the city centre, and it was called the Shoppers Festival. And it was just basically people shopping, and I stood on the stage trying to get their attention and just being berated by homeless people with special brew. Oh, well, I've done weirder ones than that, but I'm terrible at thinking of something like that. I've done that. I heard somebody told me Peter Kay did one in somebody's house on New Year's Eve in the kitchen.
Really? For a lot of money, presumably?
Yeah. Somebody approached me like, I want to come down the house and talk to my friends for 20. I've had that. I was offered money to attend somebody's 21st.
Right.
£1,000 just to go and sit with them and have a drink.
Yeah.
There's really odd ones like that. And somebody got in touch from college recently, I'd been at sixth form with, and asked if I'd go and do a 10-minute set at the Hender in their house.
Right. 10 minutes is not enough.
To the friends.
Not enough.
Yeah. Well, you know, I mean, it was just one of them. Luckily, I was aware.
Yeah.
I was previously.
Well, you know, I'll when I come to programme this Pestival night, I'll
keep us in mind.
I'll keep you in mind.
I'll do a good ladybug.
Well, whatever you like.
I'll do a ladybug that interferes with the cricket.
Good idea,
yeah. Cross species. Breeding. No,
I don't know what they'd think of that. There. You have to think a lot of the audience would be.
Well, for comedy purposes, obviously, the cricket would be inflatable.
Yeah. You know, they're very specific ideas in the entomologist community about interspecies pest activity.
Well, I'd wear a beard of bees or something.
All right, whatever.
I'd like to see if I cover myself head to toe in ants. Yeah. Well, with that, you're saying that's the only corporate you've done. Is there any particular reason? Did you make a decision quite early on, or are you not?
Well, it started off when I was about 21. I was going, I'm never going to do corporate gigs, but actually I couldn't do them anyway. I mean, I just haven't got any stuff that would work. I'd get literally booed off, and it's a very particular skill, and it's easy for those of us that do like the arts centre circuit to look at all the jongleurs acts that do corporate gigs and make 5 times what we do and be snobby about it, but actually it's really hard to like go out in front of a whole group of people who've only got one thing in common, which is that they work for the same company, and to try and entertain them, especially when it's a very difficult situation. I don't know how people do it. I mean, you've got to have loads of good jokes, and probably not a 20-minute routine about Tom O'Connor talking about sardines. It's not going to go down well at the Microsoft employees' Christmas dinner.
I got booed off on a Microsoft.
Did you?
Yeah.
That's my point exactly.
Bill Gates, we had a big debate over whether I was actually drunk or whether I was just really good at pretending. But I didn't even get to the mic stand.
Right. Really?
But yeah, before I got to the mic, everyone in the room just went, fuck off.
Right. Where was this?
Oh God, it was up in Manchester.
Right.
And
Right.
everyone
Was
had
Bill,
travelled
was
in.
Bill Gates there?
No, he wasn't, but we had a ridiculous thing where we were almost having to take legal action. They actually asked me to leave by the back door.
Right.
They said they didn't want me to walk through the crowd because it would rub salt into the wound.
Right.
Because the bloke said, do 20. He said, if it's going good, do half hour. If it's going really good, do 40. And after 6.5 minutes, I was stood on a potter's wheel with my pants down, singing My Way.
Yeah.
And the man just walked across the stage and went...
Right. But I mean, actually, it's a similar thing, right? I mean, I kind of felt on tour, like, when I got booked in to do gigs on Friday and Saturday nights, they'd always be the worst ones. I did a Saturday night in Maidenhead, it's just nothing, you know, for 70 minutes of silence. And that was this show, which has gone down, like, really, really well and got loads of good reviews. But people on a Saturday night, the audience is weighted towards people that want to come out to see some comedy, not necessarily me, and not necessarily a slightly odd idea of what comedy is. So I think if you can't make a Saturday night in Maidenhead work, you're not going to be able to do a corporate gig. I mean, I'm thinking about never playing Fridays and Saturdays, like Kitson. Kitson won't play Fridays and Saturdays. Yeah, because he's got this idea that people go out on Fridays and Saturdays for sort of entertainment and fun and to be insulted by the comic and have banter. And if that's not you, then they're going to be sort of disappointed. And so I think I'm going to try. I'm going to try to never work Fridays and Saturdays next year onwards.
But then,
you know.
because I was very like that with student gigs starting out.
Yeah.
I made a big decision, and it was good money. I wouldn't do student gigs for the very same reason of going. It was being paid good money at the time to just be abused by drunk kids who've come away from home for the first
Yeah, there's
time.
probably someone else they'd rather do that to, you know.
No, they quite like.
No, they quite like doing it to you.
Yeah, they really quite like abusing me.
I'm never sure about doing publicity for like telly and things. I did that Jimmy Carr panel show in about June, July last year. I've forgotten what it's called. Anyway,
8 out of 10 cats.
8 out of 10 cats, yeah. And I'm always terrible on those things, and I always don't do them. But I got Edinburgh coming up, and the PR people went, "Please do it." So I did it, and I was really, really bad on it. And actually, Jimmy said to me during the show, during the record, he went, I said something, and it went to just nothing. And he said, "I can honestly say, out of all the things that have ever been said on this show, that one is the least likely to make the final edit," which was really funny. And then about 2 days later, I was in Galway, in Ireland, and this guy came up to me and he went, "I saw you on 8 out of 10 cats last week, and you were so bad. I tried to return my tickets, but they wouldn't let me. And I tried to sell them, but no one would buy them. And I tried to give them away, and I couldn't. So I came anyway, but I really enjoyed the show, so I'm glad I did." But basically, there's an example of publicity actually stopping people coming to see you.
Can I ask you, like, is there a point you're going, you must have a very devoted following, you know what I mean? There's people that have followed you from quite early on. Is there another point where you want to cover something or do something material-wise, where there's that frightening bunch of people who think they know what's best for you?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Or that you've sold them out as fans?
Oh, definitely. And I think that the internet's a really contributing factor in that, because you see people sort of discussing what you're doing, and in the end you have to just kind of try not to look, especially when you're working things out. And I know, because the 2005 show, 90s Comedian, we didn't get a real commercial release. It's on, you can get it on the net, and there's a clip of it on the extras, but that was quite a violent show, you know. It was about sort of really horrific images and black comedy, and there's a certain type of person that really likes that, you know, and it's like teeth-grindingly mad, wanting to see you sort of suffer. And I don't think this show would appeal to them. And as I was developing it, I was sort of aware of people kind of going, "Oh, it seems very gentle," you know, but you have to just work through it. And I've been really, really lucky, because I used to do, I did radio stuff in the early 90s with Richard Herring, back in the days when Radio 1 had spoken word stuff on it, and like poetry and arts reviews and stuff, which just seems amazing now. But, and there were people that were listening to that were kind of 13, 14, and now they're 30. And a lot of them are journalists or promoters or people that come and bring their mates, and it's really like it's taken kind of almost 2 decades to reach a kind of tipping point in terms of audiences, I think. But are you really scared about you don't want to lose them because they're what has enabled you to keep going without being particularly high profile. But on the other hand, you don't want to be held back by expectations. But people are really good, and they've sort of learned to put up with me doing all sorts of different things, I think. And also, it's not such a big deal now, because you do one show and you write it, and there'll be another one along next year. So if they don't like that one, they might be stuff they like in the next one. But I think it is weird, and I think the internet's made people feel really accountable to punters. You do a new material night, and you go home and you do look at what people are saying.
Do you? You see
I
actually
do,
go
yeah.
on and...
Yeah, and I do, but you just have to... You have to resist the temptation to be drawn into arguments, because you have to remember that the person you're arguing with might be a 12-year-old boy in Peterborough who's only ever seen a 2-minute clip of you on YouTube, you know, so you have to be a bit careful. But it is weird, and it's also like, I mean, there was stuff I did last summer for the first time when I was working it out at Latitude Festival, and it got filmed on a camera phone, and it was on YouTube the next day with a whole like 20-point discussion of people saying whether they thought it was better or worse than the last thing they'd seen, which was a set I'd been working in for 9 months, you know. So it is kind of really odd, this whole thing of being under scrutiny.
Yeah. No, I don't think I can do it. I think I'm, in some respects, quite swayed, you know what I mean, by opinion. So I have to be very tunnel visioned and go, well, I'm not. What I do is what I do, and I'm.
Yeah.
I don't mind bad reviews. I don't mind. I love the sort of the discussion.
Well, I think it's harder for you because there's such a massive interest in you as a celebrity to develop anything new. I mean, when we did that play in Manchester, I mean, it was put under a lot of pressure that it wouldn't have been had it not been you. But then if it hadn't been you, it's unlikely we would have been given a suburban house to mess around for a month in Manchester. But also, if it hadn't have been you wouldn't have been threatened with a knife by someone during one of the performances. Yeah. There are very specific things that come with the territory.
Did you really attend Weight Watchers, and did you actually witness a religious event there?
Yeah, well, I was going to a Weight Watchers on Stamford Hill in North London, and I was asked to leave by a Muslim because she was going to take her headscarf off. And now the first time I'd just written the material about that, and I was about to do a gig at the Bloomsbury that was being filmed for Paramount, which has been compared by Al Murray as the pub landlord. And it was funny, so I was backstage, and the cameras kept panning over his crowd, and they looked like sort of 70s skinheads, but they were now 45, 50. And I looked at what they were laughing at, and I suddenly thought, I can't go out there and do this bit about arguing with a Muslim to them, because it will kind of be received in a different sort of way, because they're slightly different to the ordinary comedy crowd. And but it was weird doing it around the country. So I went and did something else on the night, because like in Cambridge, a Muslim woman came up to me really angry about it and said, "How dare you do this material?" And I went, "Well, it did happen." And she went, "What, you were asked to leave a Weight Watchers meeting so a woman could take her hijab off?" And I went, "Yeah." And she went, "Oh." And then she sort of didn't know what she thought of it, because it was true. So it's not meant to be a racist bit, but it is about how we deal with race. And that's partly why I felt obliged to put this whole coda onto it, where I talk about whether political correctness is a good or a bad thing. Because, for example, when I was in Hastings, as soon as I said there was a Muslim woman in the Weight Watchers, somebody shouted out, "Ragged," like that, right? And then the whole room sort of changed, because you can't have a funny, interesting discussion about it when there's people shouting that out. You've got to like kind of address that. So it was quite an interesting thing, and it did mean I had to write this whole extra 10 minutes about why I think people shouldn't be racially abusive, because I didn't want this bit to be sort of taken out of context. Yeah. But it's partly about how comedy audiences have changed. Like when we started, in a place like this, downstairs at the King's Head in Crouch End, 20 years ago, you would be playing exclusively to social workers and teachers. You know, but as alternative comedies got more popular, you don't know who's there. And it's not just like Guardian readers, and that's part of the fun of it. But then on the other hand, if you are like a middle-class liberal like me, sometimes you can be a bit shocked at the breadth of the audience and of their politics, you know. And I also got into a weird thing where in Edinburgh last year, there were so many people, and their sort of selling point was, I'm going to smash your politically correct taboos down. But that had become the norm. And I thought it would be quite radical to go out and say that you thought political correctness was a good thing and we should respect people. Because it seemed like the unsayable thing, like, to go out and sort of say that. It's as soon as you say political correctness, people think you're going to attack it. But if you say, there might be some good. I mean, there's a thing in the Daily Mail the other day where they said that it's a trap. No, it was in the Sunday Times that the reason kids don't dance around the maypole on May Day at school now is because of political correctness and because we're bending over backwards to accommodate immigrant culture. But it isn't that, is it? Because what 7-year-old is going to dance around a maypole now? Because they want to be off playing Grand Theft Auto 4. It's not because there are Sikhs in the country that we're not dressing up in smocks and dancing around a maypole. It's because it's 2008 and kids would be embarrassed, wrongly, because it's a great thing to dance around a maypole. But I just think political correctness gets a lot of flack that it doesn't deserve, you know. But yeah, it was weird. It was that one particular point doing this audience for a TV recording at the Bloomsbury, and Al was on, and I really like Al's act, but I just thought, this is really weird because it's being taken in a certain way by these people, and I don't want them to laugh. I don't want them laughing at my Muslim joke.
You don't want them laughing at it, but then is there any pangs of guilt of going and going, I'm being dictated to on what is... I understand you don't want it misinterpreted, but you're also going, well, you know, do you ever get mixed up rather than going, well, it's my job to educate them? Or do you go, no, it's my job to
Well, I don't know what I think about that anymore, because you know, I was involved in Joe Springer the Opera, and that was like, we ended up with a big fight on our hands about what we could and couldn't say and what we could and couldn't do, and we ended up not seeing any money for it, partly because of that. And now I kind of think, is there some way of marketing yourself and so that you get to play to people who are going to get it? Because I'm worn out, you know, and if I was 25, I'd be thinking, great, let's go and have a big argument with people who don't agree with you and try and make them feel this and do that and confuse them. Whereas now I just think it'd be quite good to write something and tour it around and have it go well.
Right, thank you.
Oh, cheers. Is that all right? God, that's like you chose the out there, like someone on hard tour.